So I have a genuine question. Who exactly was this movie made for? Because the original Moana came out only a decade ago. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Hey everyone, today I'm reviewing Disney's live-action remake of Moana. Disney has made a series of live-action remakes as a part of their release schedule, but for me, they have never been that effective. Some have brought something fresh to the table, while others just felt like a cheap mock-up of what they originally had. The new live-action remake of Moana definitely falls into one of those camps. There are moments that genuinely work, but some moments fall really flat. By the end of this review, I'll be answering the big questions surrounding this movie. Does it deserve to exist? So let's start with what worked here. And one of the biggest highlights for me is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Maui. Getting to see him return to this character and portray it in live action is definitely a treat because The Rock brings his signature charisma and attitude to the role. He already brought his charisma to the animated version, but seeing it translated to live action was interesting to say the least. He commands the screen every time he appears. And he really has a strong personality that overrides even the actress who plays Moana. And we need this powerful energy in a film that has a lot of slow moments. The music here is also a win. Just like the animated film, the songs are incredibly catchy and effective, and Lin-Manuel Miranda's score is just fantastic. Whether it's the adventurous songs or the quieter moments between multiple characters, the story still flows pretty well. But it really just serves as a reminder of how strong the music was in the animated original. The grandmother scenes with Moana also work pretty well, for the most part. She still serves as Moana's emotional compass and her reason for going out into the ocean and exploring dangerous waters. And it's a great lesson about embracing who you are and who you want to become. Those conversations still remain this film's strongest moments. And I do have to mention the pig Powell. Disney clearly understood that audiences wanted more screen time from the pig after it being largely absent in the animated film. And this is good because the adorable little companion gets much more to do. Perhaps the biggest compliment that I can give this film, though, is that you get exactly what you pay for. If you loved the animated original and all of the plot beats and pretty much everything about it, then this film doesn't change anything. So for viewers who simply want to view the same movie in live action, this version does deliver. However, this is where my biggest criticisms begin to appear. Let's get into what does not work here. Because this film follows the animated version so closely, you oftentimes are thinking to yourself, why did they even make this? It rarely gives you a reason to keep watching other than just seeing what they did with the story. And that is the biggest problem for me. This remake does nothing to expand the story or deepen our relationship with the characters, or even do some more world building. It could have made at least a couple creative decisions here that could have expanded the Moana lore and really caused us to love the character more. However, it really just serves as a lesser shadow of the animated film that came out years ago. One of the clearest examples of something in the live-action remake that did not work as well as the animated film is the shiny song sequence. For me, this was one of the most visually impressive aspects of the animated film because you got to see all the shiny and saturated elements with the crustacean moving around and dancing its tail off. But in live action, it just doesn't work nearly as well because the crustacean is CGI instead of animated. And rather than becoming one of the film's strongest moments, it becomes one of its weakest scenes. In addition, in general, everything just feels heavily desaturated in this film, mostly because they were trying to go for a more grounded and live-action portrayal. But this just doesn't follow what the Moana story needs to be, which is vibrant and colorful. And of course, in an animated format, those aspects can appear more clearly. And here, the characters just come across as more stoic and serious, and I didn't really need that. And people have talked about the live-action Lion King and have related it to the characters' facial expressions in animation versus live action, and I have the same problem here. In animation, the facial expressions on characters can really add some expression and some excitement to what you're watching. However, the human face cannot make those same exaggerated facial expressions. As a result, some of the most iconic scenes, like the "You're Welcome" sequence, don't work as well because Maui is not as expressive. And we need to talk about the nature that was portrayed in the animated film as well. Seeing the clouds, the water, and the forest in animation definitely sent home the message about nature and how we need to embrace it. But here, they kind of just fall into the background. I also struggle with the grandmother's appearance. While her scenes are emotionally effective, as I said, She simply looks a little too young for this role. This changes the dynamic between Moana and her a little bit, and she doesn't seem as much of a mentor as more of just a friend. Then we need to talk about the pacing. After Maui and Moana's attempt to get the heart of Tahiti fails the first time, the pacing just slows down like a snake. Very little happens, and I was just waiting for Moana to come back and confront Taka again. And this was a moment where I thought the film could really delve into more world building and make some creative decisions. Like maybe some mythology surrounding Maui and his relationship to Moana's ancestors. Something like that. But honestly, there's nothing, like I said. So throughout this film, I kept asking myself, why does this exist? And honestly, I have no idea. This film is not terrible. This film is watchable, but I will say, I'm gonna forget it. And when the animated film is so loved and admired by so many people and is like one of the top streaming films of all time, this film needs to live up to that, and it just does not. And this remake convinced me that it never needed to be made. On the caffeinated scale, I'm gonna give the live-action remake of Moana instant coffee. And think about how that money could have been used to make something original and actually interesting. Those are my thoughts on Moana. Please let me know what you thought of the live-action remake in the comment section down below. Am I being a little too harsh on it? And feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like, and I will continue brewing new reviews for you very soon. I will see you next time.